On the day of his middle school graduation, Mirai stood at the top of the building, and only darkness clouded his mind. Having lived his life without any happiness, he decided he wanted to test if he's the main character by hugging the ground. He dives off to make an aeroplane dive into the cement, but a cute angel caught him, and he thought he was being isekai'd. However, the angel introduced herself as Nasa, and she's glad to have saved him from becoming a floor art. Mirai struggles to believe this is the reality, and see his reflection floating in the window. Having already given up ever since his brother and parents died 7 years ago, and when his aunt and uncle took him in, he would watch as his parents enjoyed actual time with their kids, he became nothing but a tool for them, and slept every single day in that room alone, shivering. He thought there was no longer any hope in his future, but Nasa flew him away and told him she's a special ranking angel. She has the power to give him everything in this world. Mirai is hesitant that this is real, but the angel tells him to start with freedom, since he's been nothing but a slave his entire life. She offers him wings to fly and be free everywhere in this world. Additionally, if you once loved, she can summon a magical crystal era, and whoever is hit by it will fall instantly in love with him. Either the wings or arrows she can give him as a last salvation, but Mariah doesn't want to choose, so he commands her to give him both of them. Nasi tells him she will, and says it was just tradition to phrase it like he can choose one. Mirai has had enough of this trip and decides to go back to becoming a floor art, but Nasi throws the magical circles to give him an armband and a necklace. He doesn't need to worry though, because only people who also have angels will be able to view them. This is going to be his life until a new god is chosen, but she tells him to just try flying already with a single thought of flying. His wings materialize from thin air, and he takes off at super speed towards the sky and sees the sunset. All night he spent flying, thinking it felt more amazing to fly than he ever imagined, and began crying. He makes it back to the city and thinks there might be some hope to live after all. Today was St. Patrick's Day in Tokyo, and he remembered giving his childhood love, the four-leaf clover, while sitting and looking at the sky. Nasi comes again and tells him he can steal anything he would ever want with this super speed, and with the arrow he can make anyone fall in love with him and do anything. Mirai doesn't understand how she can call herself an angel since she's preaching the actions of a devil, but Nasa tells him devils don't exist. If anything, they're inside the hearts of evil people like his uncle and aunt who killed people. Mirai wonders what she's talking about, and she reveals that his uncle and aunt were the ones who killed his parents. This entire time he'd been bullied by them and treated like a slave. Mirai's mind breaks thinking the angel must be lying to claim they killed his family. But Nasa tells him to use the arrow to find out for himself. He flies back home, and his aunt tells him to hurry up and move from the doorway already. Mirai wants to ask her something, but she tells him to shut up and hurry up. He points his arm towards her and fires an arrow directly into her chest. When she gets up, his aunt rushes towards him and is ready to have some main character plot time with her milkers. But Mirai pushes her off. He asks her if they were the ones to end his family, and she breaks down and blames it all on her husband. His uncle enters the room and sees his wife cry, but she reveals everything. Her husband is the one who rigged the car to blow just to steal his family's fortune, and his memories of that day flash in his head. His parents had gone to drive his brother to school, and he was going to get his project ready, but when his father turned the car on, it exploded. They continue wrestling, and his wife reveals that it was all for the insurance money. The thought of them doing this for money breaks Mirai's mind, and he says they should have been the ones to die. Instead, his aunt hears this, and the next thing he knew, his aunt wanted to know what being isekai'd was like. Nasa explains that this is the power of his red arrow. If someone has done something that deserves trying to meet the man in the clouds, then they will meet him. He collapses, realizing how easily people die. He's still alive after all of this, and he remembers the memories his mother left him with. When he showed her his family portrait, his mom told him that everyone is born with the goal of finding happiness and trying to attain greater happiness, so she wanted him to live a happy life. At that moment, it became clear to Mirai he must try to keep living to reach happiness, and the angel tells him that he's right, and she's here to make sure she can help him become happy. She finally introduces herself as Nasa, and she's going to be his personal angel. A few days later, Mirai sits in the hotel. He's broke and couldn't afford a room, so he used the arrow to get the staff to let him stay here. Even if he can steal everything through this power, none of it would make him happy. He wants to have an ordinary sense of happiness. But first, he needs to start making money. Nasa tells him to end his uncle and kids, to take back all the money they made off him. However, Mirai can't handle the idea of seeing all the gore like the previous time, so instead, he can use the other white arrow she granted him. This white arrow instantly kills people peacefully, and she tries to explain the reason behind all these abilities. God has become weak after a long life of attempting to make Earth a better place. He appointed 13 angels to find humans who will be capable of serving as the new God, and NASA was excited to finally allow Mirai to be happy. They had a time limit of 999 days, and they all set off. On TV, Mirai sees a person being followed by an angel and sees that he's manipulated 5 women to fall in love with him. Mirai wonders if there's a way to protect himself from being shot, and NASA goes on to explain the rules of the era. The only way for someone to avoid an arrow is by flying faster using the wings. Additionally, the effects of red arrows expire after 33 days, and you can only shoot a person once. You can at most shoot 14 arrows within 33 days, which is probably what the person on TV did inside a car. Plot is happening, and I meant a lot of it. They beg him for some milk, but as he thinks this life is amazing, some Mega Man suit of armor opens the car door and points a white arrow at him. Instantly ending him, he takes his red arrow and flies away. The next day, Mirai reads the news about the guy who died, and the angel brings his body back to heaven. While walking through the city, Nasi congratulates him on getting into his top high school and thinks he must be really smart for shooting his uncle with a red arrow to confess. She tries to cheer him up, but realizes this guy is always depressed, so she asks him why he's not as happy as he should be. He reveals that he's mostly scared about the death of the other god candidate. Inside the center of the city, a bank robbery is taking place, but the armored man who killed the guy arrives named Metropolitan. He begins flying above the police, shooting them all with red arrows, and claims that he is here to save the day. He faces off with the criminal and approaches him, vanishing right next to the person to block their gun, shoots him with the red arrow, and the criminal agrees to turning himself in. His comrade, however, attempts to end Metropolis, but he ends up firing his own friend instead. The criminal fires the shotgun and Metropolis vanishes before the bullets reach him, readying a white arrow and ending the criminal. NASA realizes that his angel must be a special rank, and Metropolitan goes on to announce that there are 12 enemies that are aiming for him. He's already defeated one, so he announces on every television station that he's looking to end the other 11. Mirai commands Nassau to disappear before Metropolitan and sees her. He tries to blend in with the crowd and heads home. Later that day, he asks for Nassau to revoke his god candidate status, even though she saved his life. He doesn't want to be killed by Metropolis, however. She reveals that taking away his arrow and wings would end his life. After all, those wings and arrows were given to him only because he gave up on everything. Was God's command to only select candidates ready to give up on life. She tells him that special ranks, angels give wings, red arrows, and white arrows, while first ranks give both wings and arrow, and second ranks only give wings or arrows. However, an angel's rank can change at any point, and Mariah wonders what he should do in this situation. The next day, he heads off to school without Nassau, and she tells him to shoot Saki, his childhood crush, with a red arrow. He should try to make her fall in love with him within those 33 days. But Mariah pledges he won't use the arrow to do that. He goes to school and thinks that today will be his first fresh start. But in the sky, an angel appears.